Good evening, everybody. We're just doing a quick sound check to make sure that everybody can hear us, and we'll get started with our webinar this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to get the thumbs up from my colleague, who is our sound technician. So all is good. I think everybody can hear us. If you've any issues, please do let us know in the questions section of the questions section, questions button that you'll be able to see at the top of your screen. So my name is Sarah Nally, and I'm the team leader for the Level 1 learning programs and Level 2 learning programs. It's likely that we've met or spoke somewhere along the line. So as I said, you're very welcome. I'm joined this evening by my colleagues, so Fiona Carney, who is an advisor on the team, and Lisa Kelly, who's also an advisor on the team, and Aoife Smith, who is an associate on the team. So we're delighted to be able to go through this evening's webinar with you. We've had lots of emails and lots of phone calls around what's happening in relation to the Level 1 learning programs, so it's great that we can start this evening. So just to move us on, we're going to say welcome to everybody and hello, and just give you an opportunity, just as people are still logging on, to take part in our poll, which is just launched now, so hopefully you'll be able to see that screen come up. So basically we're just going to try and get an idea of who we're talking with, who we're collaborating with this evening. So the question on the poll is, in which school context do you currently work? So is it special school, mainstream or other? So we'll give you a few moments to engage with that poll. Okay, thank you for doing that. The poll is an interactive, I suppose, an interactive mode that we can use throughout the webinar, and there will be other interactive moments, so we'll hopefully all will go well. We can see that with the majority of teachers, majority of people that we're talking with are from special school. We also have mainstream colleagues here as well, and some from other sectors. So there will be an opportunity to, the poll has just been closed, that's great. There will be an opportunity for us to interact a little bit more throughout the presentation. So we'll start with our learning intentions for this evening, and they are there up on the screen now, and it's to explore the Level 1 learning programs and where they sit within the junior cycle framework, and then we'll have a look at what makes up an L1LP, a Level 1 learning program, exploring the priority learning units, the elements and the learning outcomes. So for those of you that have engaged with the Level 2 learning programs, you can see already there's a similarity in the language that's used around the Level 1 learning programs. So if you have questions during tonight's webinar, you'll see on the top right of your screen some symbols. So you're going to click onto the question mark symbol. You can use that question function, ask your questions, and they'll only be visible to us. They're not going to be shared with anybody else, and we will get back to you in typing, and we'll do some check-ins as well. We mightn't get round to answering all the questions, but we will have a record of them for the future, for future CPD, and we may even get back in touch with you as we have email addresses from your registration. So please do feel free to use that question function. We're going to refer to a number of key documents throughout this evening's webinar. So the first one are the Level 1 learning programs guidelines for teachers. We also will be using the Level 1 learning programs information leaflet and a PLU poster, or priority learning units poster. the guidelines for post-primary schools for supporting students with educational needs and the accompanying circulars, both for post-primary and primary, will also be referred to through the webinar. We have put in a links document with hyperlinks to all of those documents within the handout section of this webinar feature. So you will access those by clicking on the handout symbol at the top, and you can see them all there. So they're all hyperlinks. You can get straight to each of those documents and download them. They're also available on jct.ie, www.jct.ie, underneath the L1LPs section. So we always start with the junior cycle framework, and we already said one of our learning intentions was to explore where the level 1 learning programs fit within that junior cycle framework. So just a reminder to you about the 8 principles and the 24 statements of learning and the 8 key skills, which are the new curriculum, the new junior cycle curriculum. And those 3 areas are enacted and embedded through this blue line. And as you can see, it's a different diagram. We're thrilled to be able to share this with you because now we have the level 1 learning programs up alongside the level 2 learning programs. We also have subjects, well-being, short courses, other areas of learning, and of course assessment and reporting within the junior cycle has also evolved and changed. Tonight's webinar, we're going to be focusing on the curriculum, the level 1 learning programs, well-being, short courses, and other areas of learning. By showing that students who may be following a level 1 learning program will be engaging with principles, the states of learning, and the key skills, aspects of the level 1 learning programs, possibly parts of the level 2 learning programs where appropriate, where when students are able, and they will also engage with well-being, short courses, and other areas of learning. The assessment and reporting, we'll take a look at that and what that is for a level 1 learning program, and we'll consider that as we move forward throughout the presentation. So the junior cycle is now available at 3 different levels. So our subject specifications, they are broadly aligned to indicators on the National Framework of Qualifications at level 3. The level 2 learning programs, the learning outcomes within those level 2 learning programs are broadly aligned to the level 2 indicators, and the level 1 learning programs are broadly aligned to the level 1 on the National Framework of Qualifications. So we now have a junior cycle that is available for all students to access. So one of the questions that's come in is how are the level 1 learning programs different to what is out there already? So we'll see in a few moments that the level 1 learning programs were designed for a very specific cohort of students who would find it very difficult to access content of subjects that are broadly aligned to level 3. So the level 1s are now an accessible program in terms of content and in terms of meaningful content. And we'll see that as we engage with the priority learning units in a short while. So the intentions of the level 1 learning programs are to provide a broad and balanced, age-appropriate and meaningful curriculum for students who have learning disabilities within a specific range. So students that would be following the level 1 learning programs would have a learning disability within the low, moderate to severe and profound range. I suppose another intention of the level 1 learning programs is that the learning that these students undertake in an authentic manner is broadly aligned with the NFQ indicators at level 1, but the students will receive a junior cycle profile of achievement. They will receive a document that acknowledges learning that has happened within their junior cycle years within the school, and for the program, the parts of the program that they have engaged with. So we're going to move on, and we're going to ask you, there's two intentions of the Level 1 learning programs that we very briefly went through. We're going to give you an opportunity to identify what opportunities do you foresee when implementing the L1LPs in your own school context. So we're going to use Menti. If you could use your device, you could click onto another tab and you could go to www.menti.com. And when you get to menti.com, you'll be asked to add a code. So the code is 311042. And you can then add 3 points around what opportunities do you foresee when implementing the Level 1 learning programs. So we'll give you a few moments to get onto Menti and to be able to add your thoughts around that. Wow, we're blown away here. It's we love Menti, we love the word cloud, but it's a great collaborative, I suppose, application to use to gather the thoughts and gather the opinions of a number of people. And as you can see there's lots of words coming in. I'm actually going to give you a rest from my voice. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lisa, who is just going to, I suppose, go through some of the feedback that you have given through the Menti.
Okay, so as we see this evening, the opportunities you foresee when implementing the L1LPs, and the words that are biggest, for those of you that aren't familiar with Menti, the words that are biggest in text are the words that were mentioned the most. So it's great to see words like inclusion, access, engagement, cross-curricular, okay, and peer learning, successes, to mention but a few that have come up there in the Mentimeter. And as we go through tonight and we explore the PLUs, the short courses and the progression continuum, we will see how hopefully all of those words will be implemented or will be seen in your skills when you implement the Level 1 learning programs. So I'll hand you back over to Sarah now to continue on with the presentation.
Great. I can certainly see us using that word cloud in future CPD as well. So thank you very much for that. So we move back into the presentation and we will continue on. So hopefully you can all see that slide. So who are the Level 1 learning programs designed? So I think we alluded to this in the last couple of slides. So students are likely to be at an early stage of cognitive development. They may have that identification of a general learning disability in the low, moderate, severe and profound categories. And these students would have an existing individual education plan. So I suppose a lot of the questions that we got around the Level 2 learning programs was, okay, do we have to have that diagnosis, or how do we really know who, who should be following a Level 2? And we're expecting similar questions for the Level 1 learning programs. Consultation involving the parents and guardians is an absolute must. For a lot of these students, we will have multidisciplinary teams, we will have speech therapists, OT, we will have educational psychologists that would also be involved in conversations around the learning needs of students. So they have to be consulted as in the decision process around who will be following these programs. The majority of students that will be following the Level 1 learning programs will be enrolled and are enrolled in special schools. But there are others that are involved that are in special classes and in mainstream post-primary. So, and that's, I suppose, that was evident in the pilot schools. So the Level 1 learning programs were launched in May 2018. The NCCA had a fabulous day, organised and hosted a fabulous day for 10 pilot schools to go up to Croke Park. So student representatives from the school went up to receive certificates of participation for their involvement with the Level 1 learning program. So 9 of those were special schools and 1 was a post-primary school. We're really looking forward to their input going forward into our CPD design. They also, along with the NCCA, gathered exemplification material, so we're looking forward to being able to share that as well. So what exactly will students engage with? Well, as we highlighted in the previous slide, all students that will be engaging with the Level 1 learning program will have an individual educational plan. Okay, they will have very specific, they will have very specific learning challenges and learning needs, okay? So they will have an individual education plan, and all of what happens for them in school and in their classrooms and in the general school community will come from this individual education plan. So they will have the opportunity, because the Level 1 learning programs now exist, to engage with priority learning units, of which there are 6, and we're going to explore those in a little while. They will have the opportunity to explore short courses. There are 3 short courses at the moment that have been developed along with the NCCA, so I know that's one of the questions that has come in already. We're going to tell you what those 3 short courses are and where you can find them in a short while. They will, if we think back to the structure of junior cycle, there is an emphasis on other areas of learning, and students will have other areas of learning outside of the priority learning units and the short courses. And of course, these need to be encouraged, explored, developed. Wellbeing is not a new component, but it's a focus that all schools are looking at. So students within this category will have specific well-being needs. And you'll see from one of the priority learning units that focus on well-being is explored within a priority learning unit, but there may be other things that are happening within the school day that are meeting the well-being needs of students, and that's to be encouraged. All of whatever it is that the students are engaging with in those 4 areas will stem, as we said, from the individual education plan. And the planning comes from that, student-centred, individual targets, and so on. So we have 6 priority learning units as part of the Level 1 learning programmes. So if we had you in front of us, we'd be asking you to tell us or to share with us what you think the names of the priority learning units are by looking at the visual symbols. But we don't, so we're going to tell you, we've got communication, language and literacy. We've speech bubbles to identify that. Numeracy, and we've a euro sign and a plus and a minus sign. Physical education is another PLU, and we've got a football to demonstrate that. Personal care, and you can see there well-being, and we've a toothbrush and a toothpaste there in that graphic. The arts, and we've got the drama, sad and happy drama mass, and then being part or being in the community as the 6th PLU. So for those of you that are familiar with the Level 2 learning programs, you'll notice that there isn't one of the PLUs from the Level 2s there, and that's preparing for work. But we are delighted, and I think the teachers within the pilot schools were delighted to see the arts there and also physical education. So we're going to explore the priority learning units in a little more detail, just so you can have a look at some of the actual content of that PLU. So each PLU has a number of elements. So it's very similar again to the Level 2 learning programs. And each element has a number of learning outcomes. And learning outcomes are statements of learning which specify the knowledge, skills, attitudes and values that students should be able to demonstrate after a period of time. So like junior cycle subjects, like the Level 2 learning programs, it's envisaged that the learning in relation to the Level 1 learning programs will take place over the 3 years of junior cycle. So we're going to give you an opportunity now to engage with, or have a look at, explore for yourselves, take a little bit of time to explore the PLUs and the learning outcomes. So as we said at the beginning, we've given you a direct link to the PLU poster and to the guidelines. So if you click on the handouts symbol at the top right of your screen, you should be able to click onto either the guidelines or the PLU poster, open it up. So what we're going to give you the opportunity to do, and perhaps maybe you're already running these PLUs in your classroom, so you'd be familiar with them anyway. Some of us may be only starting out on our journey of the Level 1 learning programs, given that they were only launched in May. So take a few moments to look at the learning outcomes within a specific priority learning unit on the poster or in the guidelines it's included in the handout section. And our question to you then is, are these learning outcomes or the PLU in action in your school already? And if so, how? And we're going to ask you to go back into Menti in a few moments, where you can document how that might be happening. So I'll just recap. Have a look at the learning outcomes within one priority learning unit, and ask yourselves, that you can access through the handouts section, ask yourselves, are these learning outcomes or the PLU in action in your school already? And if so, how? So we'll give you about 4 minutes to have a look at that. Okay, so just to let you know that the next slide for Menti is available. So if you go back into the Menti that we opened with that code 311042, you should be able to see the next slide, and it's a shared examples. You can see it on the screen there. Shared examples. So if you want to share how the learning outcomes or the PIU is in action in your school, you can do so there. We can see some coming in, which is fantastic. Don't worry if you're thinking, oh, it's not, because as I said, everybody is at a different stage on this journey. So tonight could be just the fact that you heard that they exist and you've come to get more information on what they are, and other schools may have started using them already. So this is just an opportunity again for us to build collaboratively some examples of how it's in action. Thank you very much for that. I've just seen that somebody can't access the documents, and I should have said at the start, this webinar it will be recorded and it will go up onto our website. Any webinars that we have done previously in relation to the level 2 learning programs, they are up there on the level 2 section. And going forward, anything that we put that we work with teachers with will be up on the website. So that's www.jct.ie. So I'm aware some of you cannot access the documents. As we have said, they are all available on our website or on the NCCA, curriculumonline.ie website as well, under junior cycle and then under the level 1 learning programs. There's loads of ideas here coming up. This is actually our first time to use Menti in the webinars as well, and we were just commenting how effective it is in that it's great to hear voice. I know it's written voice, but it's great to hear about all of the effective practices that are going on. And I think one thing that many of us might find reassuring is that it's already in practice in schools. And you can see some of the comments around that. So that Menti is going to be kept open. I'm going to go back into the presentation and you can carry on adding to that Menti if you didn't get the opportunity to do so within the time. We will take screen grabs of all of this and be able to share that with you as well going forward. So I'm just going to go back into our presentation here. So we're just going to think about how we might use the priority learning units in terms of planning. So there's three things I suppose that we have to consider, and that are, what are your students' needs? Where, you know, we might we'd like students to experience all of the learning outcomes within a priority learning unit, but specifically, you know, for the students that we're talking about, there will be they will have specific needs, and there will be specific learning outcomes that are suitable. A level 1 learning program is an unconstrained award, so there's no, you know, it's any and all learning that is recognised. So there isn't that moment of they have to achieve all of the learning outcomes. Okay, it's more about student-centred planning and really focusing in on the most suitable learning outcomes. And we'll be discussing this in more detail on a full day CPD that will be available from January onwards. We'll talk to you about that at the end. So there's I suppose, a question down there at the bottom arrow: what PLUs, which PLUs and which learning outcomes are suitable? And the bottom arrow: where is their current learning on the progression continuum? So let's have a look at something that's in the level 1 learning programs that's not there for level 2. So this will be brand new to all of us, and that is the progression pathways. So the progression pathways are really there to support teachers in keeping track and understanding the journey that a student is making and where they are at on that journey in relation to learning outcomes that they're working towards or learning experiences. It's also great for parents to have an awareness of, okay, where their child is at and where the school and the teachers are aiming to get them to. And again, for students, you know, if we were to explore how these might be written or used within the classroom with students, how they would have an understanding using these progression pathways to help move their learning on. So the continuum the progression pathways are set out into 7 pathways, so you can see them down the left-hand side: experiencing, attending, responding, initiating, acquiring, becoming fluent, and generalizing. So for each of those pathways, there's a descriptor which outlines what is involved at that pathway. So along with the student's IEP, the progression pathways and continuum supports the teacher in planning for teaching, learning, and it also helps them when they are assessing students' learning. So let's have a look at the pathways broken down. We've got the 3 pathways there: experiencing. I'm just going to give you a moment to read the descriptor or descriptors. And then pathways 4 to 7. These are within the level 1 learning programs guidelines, and we'll certainly be teasing these out more in the CPD, in our CPD day. I just want to go back to this slide and just highlight these blue arrows. Okay, so if teachers are using this progression pathway for planning learning experiences to enable students to work towards achieving a particular learning outcome, there may be, students may be at one particular pathway, so they may be at attending in relation to a learning outcome from numeracy. They may also be at acquiring for a learning outcome or a group of learning outcomes in personal care. So this really enables us to look at how we might plan student-centred planning, how we make really individualised plans of action and plans of teaching, learning and assessment for our students. You can see within the descriptor as well, there is so much scope there for development and for progress. So a student could stay within a pathway for a significant amount of time, but there will be small steps, there will be progress even within that descriptor or within that stage of the pathway. Again, we don't want to, we can't go into it too much within an hour's webinar, but just to let you know that that's there as something to support you with your planning and with your assessment. There will be a pathway poster available on CPD and we will tease it out. So I'm going to move on from that. And we're going to just kind of look at, we're going to consider what key learning might look like and how might we decide on what that key learning is. So if you're working towards a group of learning outcomes or a learning outcome in particular, you're going to use the progression pathway. You're going to identify where the student is at on that progression pathway, and you're going to identify how you would like your students' learning, students' ability achievement to progress on that continuum. So you're going to use it to plan what happens next, what is the key learning. One thing, and I know teachers that are working in schools with students that will be following the level 1 learning programs are amazing at this, and that's really looking at what reinforces students, what motivates them. I mean, you're amazing at student-centered planning because you really, everything comes from the student themselves, their likes, their dislikes, so on and so forth. So what is it that will motivate them? What's the hook? And I think if we did that with every student, you've won half the battle, in having them engaged in your classrooms. So what considerations will you have to make? Again, all of this ties back to the IEP, and you can see direct links there to the IEP. So what considerations will you have to make as you plan learning experiences for students? And then what key learning will take place? What are you going to put an emphasis on? We acknowledge that there are very small steps for students that will be focusing in on the level 1 learning programs. So that you may focus in on a particular area. So what is it that you would like the student to know or to be able to do? And it's okay just to focus in on that aspect, And every student is going to be different. Every student's journey, every student's pathway on that progression pathway will be different. Another thing that you're going to consider in your planning of the learning experiences is how will that learning be evidenced? How will success be measured? And how will evidence be collected? And that's going to affect what learning activities and learning experiences are actually put in place. But you're planning from the outset you're considering what is it that you want the students to know or to be able to do, and how are they best going to be able to show that, or how will you best be able to evidence that with the students. Okay, so will you have an assessment moment or task at the end, or will you use ongoing formative assessment? Will you use photographs? What will the success criteria for this learning be? And that, again, stems back to the IEP, and it stems back to identifying those key parts of the learning experience that you're hoping the students will be able to demonstrate. So learning, other aspects that you to consider when you're designing learning experiences: how will you work towards the learning outcomes, or rather, how would your students work towards those learning outcomes? What resources are you going to use? Where will the learning take place? And how long will the experience last? Again, all of this planning for learning experiences, working towards learning outcomes, and using the language of learning, we will cover and do this more in depth on our CPD day. We spoke about gathering evidence there, so it's very similar to the level 2 learning programs. For those of you that haven't engaged with the level 2 learning programs, that's fine. Here we have it. So evidence can be lots of different modes, and it should be varied. Okay, so we should see worksheets, we should see pieces of writing, we could see art, we could see posters. Equally, we could have videos of students engaging with learning outcomes, photographs and audio. So it's varied, and all of this is gathered into a portfolio. So the assessment of PLUs is ongoing formative assessment and reporting, and this portfolio of evidence is gathered and created by students. And it's that is used for the school-based assessment of whether a student has achieved their priority learning unit within the Level 1 learning programme. We mentioned this way back at the start in terms of students that engage with the Level 1 learning programme receiving a profile of achievement that reflects what they have covered, what they have achieved, what they've been successful at within the junior cycle. And that's through this JCPA, a Junior Cycle Profile of Achievement. So the Junior Cycle Profile of Achievement will reflect on all of the learning that has been achieved in the priority learning units, the short courses, other areas of learning, and any well-being will be reported on in the future also. So evidence is gathered in a portfolio. That could be a hard copy folder portfolio. A lot of schools are going down the route of using digital portfolios, and students may be engaged in making things, and those artifacts then are being displayed. A lot of schools have a portfolio parade, or they have a day or a session where the work of students that have engaged with the learning programs is celebrated. So it's likely that that's going to happen with the Level 1 learning programs. So what might a portfolio look like? So it could be divided into the 6 priority learning units or into projects or subjects. There isn't a hard and fast rule. It really depends on the students and what they've engaged with. It also has to be manageable for you as a school and for you as teachers. But common sense kind of suggests these areas, that there would be a content checklist, that we spoke about the varied type of evidence. At the end of the day, the portfolio is what the student takes home. It's what he or she shares with his family, and to demonstrate what he has covered or she has covered in school. So it needs to be authentic, and it needs to have that varied type of evidence. So it needs to be user-friendly, it needs to be the students' work, it is what we use to assess whether students have achieved. It could show progression, hopefully it does show progression, and we will see feedback throughout the portfolio also. So using that portfolio, it's how we will assess, as I've said a few times now, assess whether students have achieved. And that then moves us on to this area of reporting on the Level 1 learning programs. So the first Junior Cycle Profile of Achievements that will report on the Level 1 learning programs will be issued in 2021. The JCPA, or the Junior Cycle Profile of Achievement, is school-based. All students will have their learning recognised on that JCPA, and the achievement of PLUs and short courses will be on the JCPA, and the following descriptors will be used. So we'll have successfully completed or progress achieved. So just to explain that, to tease that out a little bit, successfully completed is when a student has achieved the majority of learning outcomes within the whole PLU. Okay, and progress achieved is when they've experienced some or achieved some of the PLUs across the whole PLU. Again, we can tease this out through our CPD day. If you've still got questions around that, refer to the leaflet, the Level 1 leaflet, because it's quite clear there, or indeed the guidelines. Okay, so we're going to take a moment to give you a rest from my voice. We're going to check in with just some of the questions and answers that have come in, and I'm going to hand back over to my colleague Lisa, who we'll give about 2 minutes to this, Lisa, just because I'm conscious we're coming up to 7:20. So we'll just take a couple of the questions that seem to be coming in and do a quick check-in.
Okay, great, Sarah. So I suppose the first question that came in today or tonight was about the short courses, which we're going to discuss in the last section of the webinar tonight. And we'll discuss the NCCA developed short courses that are available online at the moment. Another question that came in is, what evidence do you suggest for a non-verbal student? Of course, the students for which the Level 1 learning programmes were designed for will have a range of needs, and so your assessments will have to be tailored to capture that student's learning in the best possible light. So it may be that you record or you take a photograph. It may be that they communicate through an assistive communication device. Whatever means of communication that student uses, that's how you should assess their learning and gather evidence of their learning. Another question that's come in tonight is what planning templates are available. So for those of you who are teaching in a special school setting, you will be aware that you must use the Kuntas Masul planning template as usual and just adapt it slightly, I suppose, to include the learning outcomes based on the PLUs and short courses from the Level 1 learning programmes. And to those of you that are in the post-primary setting, then you will be following the continuum of support documents. So you will have a student support file and the IEP, as Sarah's mentioned several times tonight. And so you will use them as your planning documents as usual. I think that's all the questions answered, so I'll hand you back over to Sarah now to continue with the presentation.
Brilliant, thank you, Lisa. I mean, one of the things that struck me there was this isn't to catch students out. This is about success and celebrating what students can actually achieve and what they have actually achieved. So as Lisa said there, it's student-centered, so we're not changing anything. However we go about teaching and learning is how we should be assessing as well. So we're nearly there, folks. The short courses, there are three level 1 short courses that have been developed by the NCCA, and they are available on the NCCA website. On Curriculum Online, I'd be shot. On curriculumonline.ie. So the three of them are there. You can see them yourselves. Around the World in 80 Days, Food, Glorious Food, Keeping Well, Looking Good and Being Great. And these were developed with teachers. So they have come from existing practices in schools. They sound fantastic to me, and we really look forward to exploring them in more detail. So the short courses then, the guidelines is around how long should be given. The minimum is 100 hours. Of course, it could take more than 100 hours, and that's absolutely fine. If we're talking about student-centered planning, then that's expected. The assessment of a short course is through a CBA, or a classroom-based assessment. So there will be features of quality that accompany that classroom-based assessment, and we will use those features of quality to judge whether a student has successfully completed or has, as it states there on the slide, has achieved progress by engaging with some of the learning outcomes from the short course. Again, we will tease all of this out going forward, but these documents are very clear and very concise. So if you were to access these, you'd read for yourself as well. Evidence of learning from the short courses can be, you can store that in a portfolio type thing, or you could use that evidence to support the learning outcomes from the PLUs as well. And because again, it's about scaffolding learning, it's about transferring, it's about generalizing, and of course, as you're looking at some of the learning outcomes from Food, Glorious Food, you will also be working towards learning outcomes from personal care and well-being, for example. So that's just the 3 short courses that we have for the Level 1 learning programs. Here's some go-to places. So we've mentioned these throughout the webinar. We've got our own website, jct.ie, www.jct.ie, and there is a section on the Level 1 learning programmes. And as we devise our CPD and create resources to support teachers and empower teachers on the ground, we will be adding them to the website. So you'll find the different sections being populated. Curriculum online as well, we've mentioned a few times, and that's where you're going to get the guidelines and the short courses. We have a Twitter account. Some of you may be on the Twitter account, so we keep, that's our news and events, I suppose, method of communication. So we tend to share information around both programs, the Level 1 learning programs and the Level 2 learning program, but also anything in relation to inclusion or additional learning needs up on Twitter. You have our email addresses there, so sarah.nally@jct.ie, the same for Lisa and the same for Fiona. So, you know, never be afraid to send us an email, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Going forward, what might the next steps in your school be? So there are just some considerations here. You might be at the stage of identifying who might follow an L1LP. You might be looking at how you're going to develop collaborative practices around planning for those students. You might be identifying priority learning needs for students, and then looking at which PLUs you're going to focus in as part of your long-term plans, or looking at what the personalised targets are required. So everybody is going to be at a different stage of the journey. These are only suggested steps. You know, every school, as I said, every school is going to be at a different stage. So tonight's webinar, in terms of CPD from Junior Cycle for Teachers, is just the beginning, and we've put this in place because we know schools were aware that the Level 1 learning programs were launched and that you are actually using them. What we want to do to finish off is give you an opportunity to identify to us what might your next steps be and what supports would you like going forward. Now, I'll put a caveat on, it doesn't mean, you know, that that will be part of the future CPD, but it's, you know, it's important that we are supporting teachers on the ground that are following the Level 1 learning programs, and that we hear your voice in relation to what CPD going forward looks like. So that's just the final task. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So we're going to I'm just going to give you a couple of moments. You can do this into the questions section, and we will gather those, and if we can answer some of them before we finish off, we will. If not, we will certainly have them going forward ourselves as we're designing the CPD. The CPD for the Level 1 learning programs is happening in schools from January onwards, okay? So if you are looking for an input on the Level 1 learning programs in school, you contact either myself, Fiona, or Lisa. Your principals may have this email, specialschoolsupport@jct.ie. That's also fine to use, for them to use, but just get in contact with us and we can organise a school visit for CPD on the L1LPs. Okay, so we'll just give you a few moments to identify what your, I suppose that's a reflection point for you, but certainly what supports would you like going forward? Okay, thank you so much. We've lots of questions coming in there. We've only 1 minute left before we have to sign off and let you go. We post this webinar back to 6:30 because the Teaching Council have an inclusion for all webinar on at 8 o'clock. So hopefully we're actually going to do that one ourselves. So hopefully we might see you there and hear your voice there. Just some of the supports that came back in there. Will there be planning templates? Will we see learning examples in action? Will there be videos? Will there be a exemplar portfolio? Yes, and absolutely. If there are other things that you think of, do let us know. But as I said, it's not guaranteed that it will be there, but we'll certainly, we're certainly looking to support you in the way that you need to be supported. If you engaged with if you're engaging with the level 1 learning programs and there's really effective practice going on, please contact us because we are looking to exemplify that material. That's it from us, folks. Just going to move on and say thank you very much. We will come back to those questions that we didn't get to answer through email. Sorry, my screen is, there we go. My screen was stuck. So just to say thank you very much. If we didn't answer your question throughout the webinar, don't worry. As I said, we have your email address and we will come back to you with a response to your question. So thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you in the future.